Hi, science class. This is Kristen Rickner with our final project for Science in the School curriculum. My project is about using inquiry to discover factors that will affect plant growth, and my target audience is my third grade class. Students will create a question to investigate that's related to plant growth, and they will then design their investigation and carry out measurements to assess the health and growth of two different plants based on the variable that they're using. They will have two plants to compare. They will use the TI sensor tag to monitor the data. Some popular things they might choose would be to measure humidity or to measure how light affects the growth. How does this utilize STEM practices? Well, it's full of inquiry where students get to help design their own investigation. The students will be engaged in scientifically oriented questions. They will have to show evidence. They will have to formulate explanations, justify their data, and look into the future of how they can communicate and justify their proposed explanations and how they could extend the activity. So the experiment began here with a sample of the lesson with my 10-year-old. And so she is preparing her plants for planting. So she has each of the supplies. These are actually wicks because the quadrant is pretty small. We use what's called Wisconsin fast plants. That helps bring out moisture into the plant like over the weekend if it doesn't get watered. From there, she's adding 3 pellets of fertilizer to each quadrant. And then she is planting the seeds and tamping them down and then putting soil over top. The experiments we worked with were light versus no light as it measures the lux on the TI sensor tag. So she is placing it in an HVAC closet in the science lab, and then we have one by the window. We also have grow lights in our science lab, which could be a different way to measure natural light versus grow lights for students who would select that. Next up, she is looking at humidity and keeping about a 20% differential by putting the plant in 2 different places and deciding on how much water she needs. I have found through the years that when third graders measure plants that are pretty fragile, sometimes they get uprooted. So one solution I saw while researching this was if students would take a straw and just mark the straw next to the plant on how large it is or how tall it is, then they can put it back on the graph paper and then measure accurately from there. This is showing growth over time. Now with this experiment, this was my classroom who had already worked on growing their Wisconsin fast plants, and these are under the grow lights here. Using the TI sensor tag, Lindsay and I found we were able to get the humidity at 2 different levels and looked at growth in between them. And then the effective humidity on plant transpiration could be an extension for the third graders. Another thing we will look at would be the light and how stronger light affects plant growth versus darkness, or differing levels of light, which is neat with the TI sensor tag, that kids could have different levels of light to see how it affects plant growth. From there, the students will review their data on this worksheet that I created. And the tenets of inquiry, our students are asked to question, explore, analyze, and share their information with others. They will be using levels 2 and 3 of the inquiry and evaluate data and draw conclusions based on the evidence they have collected. It does involve critical thinking, problem solving, and communication that we need for the 21st century. And based on the inquiry continuum, here are the levels that I saw. Thank you.